All right, continue.
Alrighty. All right, guys, welcome to the UK Sangha. We were just talking about malicious gossip and how prevalent and how persistent and how fundamental to normal social circles to partake in this activity is. Like from most people can relate to this from a very, very early age. If you're hanging around in a group of people, you're trying to be a part of it, and the main thing that people are talking about is what are they talking about? Other kids. Oh, that weird kid. Isn't that so funny how weird he is? And look how stupid that guy is. And then ha ha ha, that will make me feel better about myself. So yeah, this habit is developed as a kind of defense mechanism to put others down. Or the opposite happens where you become extremely self-conscious and you start putting yourself down in your own mind. So both of these come from hindrances, first of all, but lack of wholeness. So it's unwholesome. So if something is unwholesome, it's going to seek retribution or seek becoming whole through incorrect ways. So through wrong views, through wrong speech, through wrong all of that. Yes, Veda.
Is every one of you? No, not every one of you is American origin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because you said it in a way with a very, very narrow focus on the destination and the way you explained this experience of people bonding in this particular age group through excluding people,
Right.
basically.
Right.
This, I mean, I can relate to this in a way. At the same time, from my experience as a German, it's like there is always this, and this is with all those themes. I see this. I mean, we're trying to close a duality with practicing this method, always between something that is wisdom based in the best sense, and something that is mundane. But people also don't really think about those things, and the grown-ups around those kids, they are exactly as lost, I would say, as those kids. So in Germany, I saw those things mostly happen behind, let's say, how do you say this, like behind closed curtains. So in the front, everything is effective, everything is wonderful, the society is keeping their obligations up and so on. Everybody is acting like nothing is happening, and behind closed doors, people are desperate and I don't know, hit their kids or something or whatever. So if
They maintain the level of ordinary right view at the level of the world, free from the wrong view of breaking the laws and all of that. But
even if they
like
think
we're
they're doing
saying,
the right thing, they're mostly completely in the dark.
View, and they're not doing things because they analyze them and think they're wise. They're doing them because they were told to, or taught to, either implicitly or explicitly, since they were a child.
Yeah, you
Conscious
just
or
you just
unconscious.
gather some habits based off the conditionings, the conditions of your surroundings. So no one's at fault here. It's just a set of causes and conditions.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right, Veda. It does happen at different levels. It happens at like from middle school cliques to all the way to I don't know, the school to different colleges to the area you live in. You can see this a lot with gangs and stuff like that. Being an exaggerated example, like I'm from here, you're not from here. Yeah, so all the way to your political affiliation, to the country you live in, to your race, to your social class.
Yeah.
Every single one of these aspects pertains to that mode of excluding others to create a stronger sense of self-worth or selfhood, which is just a product of delusion.
Yeah.
The construct.
Certain kind.
But anyways, like how to come out of these habits is very rewarding if you do, first of all, because it just feels like plain wholesome. Like when you think in a wholesome way, you feel in a wholesome way. So if you just stop thinking through things through a judgmental lens, you just feel a lot more easygoing, and you feel a lot more inclusive, and like chances are like you're gonna make more wholesome friendships that way as well, and maybe even teach the Dhamma by the way that you are. So like every social interaction is an opportunity to practice the Dhamma, and by practicing the Dhamma, inadvertently you teach the Dhamma.
It's a good side point. The way you are, not something artificial.
Yeah, not like not talking about like, oh, here's how you do this method, and here's the stages of insight, and here's how you get
Where did I hear
on,
that?
and here's how you get into first jhana, second jhana. So, like all that stuff is like technical stuff, but the meat, I mean the heart of it is just how you react and how you respond to things, and then just keeping an uplifted sense of joy, even when, like we've talked about this in past Sangha calls, like there's those people that you walk by that they're going to have just like a terrible look on their face, and they're going to look at you and like in a mean way. They're not going to want to say hi. They're going to be like, because they're just like wrapped up in their hindrances. So you have one of two choices. You can keep smiling. You can keep an uplifted sense of joy, and maybe even potentially spark a smile in their face and a good reaction from them. Or you can let the input of that data create a hindrance in you as a reactionary mechanism. So like, oh, who's this guy with this look on his face? Like, fuck this guy. Like,
That's a really good point, and
yeah.
that's something that a point to be made about it is it's not that the guy, the actual face that he's making that results in the negative response in us. It's the process of we see the negative face,
Right.
and then we create some story about the face that he is disliking me and I am lesser, and then maybe some conditioning from when we were young of remembering when people were disapproving of us and not feeling loved, and then we feel that same feeling then and
Right.
there, and it happens very quick in the mind.
Right.
And so it is nothing personal, and it could never be. That even if this guy is mad at you, he's mad at some representation of you he's built up in his own mind. And if you don't even know who you are, how is he going to know who you are?
Yeah, so like that whole process happens very quickly in the mind. And the skill that we're developing is literally seeing how that functions, seeing how that works. So how does this mechanism work? How does dukkha arise? Like, this is effective practice, is not not necessarily never experiencing dukkha, but understanding the mechanism more in depth the next time it happens. So you walk by someone, they have a bad look on their face, you're all happy, and then you get a bad taste in your mouth because you feel a sense of rejection as a response to some past experience where you've been rejected, when the situation is completely brand new and it has nothing to do with that. Like, oh, maybe that guy's having a bad day. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep being happy. Like, what is that?
Yes.
Like,
I
what is
was
that?
watching a Veritasium video yesterday about skill development. And it's helpful to look at practice in the lens of skill development, because what we really are is just learning a skill. And a lot of people talk about meditation as some woo-woo enlightenment, but those concepts are really far out there, and we can look at it as just another skill. We're learning a skill, the skill of learning to be happy, the skill of identifying dukkha and learning dukkha completely so we don't mistakenly dukkha anymore. So he outlines 4 steps in the process of learning a skill. 1, repeated attempts with feedback or receiving feedback. We try the skill, right? You hit the tennis ball over the net. Does it go over or does it not? Did the player hit it back or do they not?
Perseverance.
Two would be a valid environment, right? Is the data we're getting, for example, a stock trader, does it actually mean anything, or is it just random? If he infers, oh, I traded when the stock dropped yesterday, and then he comes up with some reason for that, is that reason that he comes up with representative of the actual reason that thing happened?
Right, or is it superstitious?
Or
Right.
if it's just superstitious, he's not actually developing a skill.
Right.
And then timely feedback, we're getting immediate feedback. The Dhamma is immediate. We practice and we see what happens here and now. Is dukkha gone or is dukkha not gone? Am I still dissatisfied? And 4 would be not getting too comfortable. That we continue to practice and continue to look, and there's never a point where we just stop looking and go back to sleep. That we're developing the habit of waking up and waking up and waking up. So what you were saying, I think, is helpful to look at in the sense of repeated feedback. That a lot of people will become scholars of Buddhism and learn about enlightenment and learn about all this stuff, but they never actually get the feedback of it. They never actually get in the cushion and try, does this skill work or does this skill not work? And if it doesn't, maybe I acquire some more information and play around some more, and then I try it again.
How did you phrase the second?
The second would be a valid environment. Is there some regularity in the results I'm getting that are from probably some other reasoning or some other pattern that I'm learning about?
But this is true for every step, right? This is true for everything and anything. If you even if you, I mean, mostly for people, if they hit a plateau, right? If they go in their learning curve to their first real success, then, oh yeah, I did it, now I'm enlightened or something like this. And well, no real confidence anymore, no real enthusiasm anymore, motivation anymore, and so on, because it's getting, I mean, it's not really getting harder. This is just the concept too. So yeah, it's kind of a re-evaluation of why you're doing what you're doing,
and continuing to reevaluate and continuing to reevaluate that
again and again.
Right. So dukkha is a very repetitive process, and the way that it starts, there can be varying qualities or aspects to it, but the fundamental process of going from satisfied to dukkha is the same process every time at its core, this with the same root factors. So it may be so like the problem is most people, after they're already experiencing dukkha, they will come up with superstition or some kind of hypothesis of why they're experiencing dukkha, instead of being aware and being there for it when it happened, as it happened. So this is the skill that we're developing of developing a keen awareness of things. So it's kind of like a skilled hunter walking in the forest, and you're in the mode that you can hear a twig crunch in the leaves 20 yards away. And what's the type of mind state you have to like have a 360 awareness of that? Because you can see the formations of dukkha arise if you're paying attention. And you can see how it develops. And this is a very, this skill is, it's not that we become more and more comfortable with doing this. And not we become satisfied and then we become complacent with that. We become satisfied and then we find it easier and easier to have this type of awareness and pay attention. So it's like, again, with hey Robert, with attainments and everything, it's more like developing abilities that you can continue to use, rather than crossing a threshold and then not having to use those abilities anymore. So many people think that at a certain point of meditation, they will become a certain level of enlightened, and then they won't have to use their abilities that got them into a wholesome state to begin with anymore. And then they find themselves dissatisfied because they're not practicing correctly.
Then again into entropy. So they decline. Their skills decline.
And this is something we can look at because this is just a skill. It's a very noble skill, but we can look at it with the perspective of other skills, other ordinary skills, that medical doctors, the doctors who come in immediately after med school, are highly knowledgeable of medicine, highly knowledgeable of how to treat patients. But as time progresses, it spends longer and longer since they've been in medical school. Their memory of what they learned in medical school is just that of what it was in medical school, and the field has continued to progress and continue to progress. And so when they're 50 or 60 and they're still a doctor, their skills are going to be a lot less than the young medical student who's just started in the field and just started being a doctor. And so we can take this as a lesson that if we were that medical doctor, that we have the intention to keep looking and keep learning and keep investigating, that although the skill becomes automatic in one sense, in the sense that the effort is less, that doesn't mean that no effort is required, like Scott's saying. And I think it's a really good point. Go ahead.
Another thing I'd like to make an analogy for is, I don't know if anyone's ever snowboarded before, but in the beginning, when you first snowboard, it takes a lot of effort because you're braking. Every turn you have to brake, slow down. So your legs are tensed the whole time. And by the end of it, you're very, very sore. But the better and better you get at snowboarding, you're just going to, I'm going to throw a carve here, carve there. But for the most part, I'm standing up, just going. So meditation is similar. At the first, you're going to have to be, there's an unwholesome thought, hindrance. You're going to be putting in seemingly a lot of effort for these hindrances that are arising, until it's like, Wholesome, 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 there's a hindrance, throw it out. Wholesome, wholesome, there's another hindrance, throw it out. And so these things, because of your correct practice, the effort becomes more streamlined. And then it's more like you're just playing music and just going on a solo, like you become a virtuoso, and now you're just having fun with it. So that's the kind of the difference. Yeah, Robert, you have a question?
Yeah. Do you guys have any advice for dealing with social anxiety?
Oh yeah. So like anxiety is like a hindrance. So like the way that you deal with social anxiety is by taking the social out of it and realizing that you just have anxiety. It doesn't matter what the cause is. The problem is restlessness and worry, which is a hindrance. And these come from an unwholesome thought, or in another way of saying it, incorrect perception. So the first step for the origination of dukkha is a delusion about the way things are. So anxiety arises because you weren't paying attention. So the first step is to, now that you have anxiety, change your diaper, throw it out. I don't need to feel anxiety. There's nothing wrong with this moment. That was all a fabrication of my mind that was making me feel a way that I don't want to feel. So I throw it out, I gladden the mind, and then now I pay attention. How does this anxiety arise? It arose from a stream of mental formation that were deluded about the fact of the matter. So you had some self-reflecting thoughts that were constructed out of a social situation that were giving you a hindrance. But really, there is no social situation. There are phenomenal experiences arising in a way, and we need to pay attention to see how these experiences operate in our visceral experience and how dukkha arises. The reason why we pay attention how dukkha arises is so we can learn how dukkha has a cessation, or how dukkha ends. So this is the beautiful simplicity of the teaching of the Buddha. It's not about, oh, how do I get back my ex-girlfriend, or how do I become more charismatic in a social situation. No, social anxiety isn't the problem. Anxiety is the problem.
Okay.
So like, you need to simplify things into, okay, there's all these different labels I can give to dukkha, but at the end of the day, it's just dukkha. It's just dissatisfaction. We can call it social anxiety. We can call it a whole range of different categories and symptoms that dukkha can cause, but the root of it is dissatisfaction. So dissatisfaction, when dissatisfied all the time, becomes mental illness. And then you can call the mental illness different things based off what symptom it exhibits. But the problem, whether you're well-adjusted millionaire with tons of friends, is you're still satisfied, or if you're in a psych ward because you had a schizophrenic breakdown, you're dissatisfied. The problem is the same as dissatisfaction. And the teachings of the Buddha has a beautiful simplicity to actually solving the problem of what's actually going on here, is that there is dissatisfaction. That's the first step, is to realize it's just being dissatisfied. So not being satisfied with the way it is right now, wanting other things. So there's dissatisfaction, and there is a cause to dissatisfaction, which is the process of dependent origination. So how do these things arise? They don't come from nowhere. They don't, like superstitious thinking would think it comes from it comes from the stars, right? Oh, it's because I'm a Gemini. Or something like that. So it's like we come up with all these magical thinkings, and you can create a whole theory about it, about like that's what astrology is, or karma. Oh, in 500 lifetimes ago, I was a bad boy, so now I'm experiencing something bad. No, in this moment, the way you perceive things cause dukkha to arise in you. So it's not a magical thing of making up all these different reasons, or even even something that you think is more realistic is still magical. Like you think, oh, I have dukkha because this person called me a mean name, or I was rejected from a social circle. Why I have dukkha. No, that's not why you have dukkha, because that could have happened. You could have been satisfied. Still, it's how you what happened. So always there is dukkha, there is a origination of dukkha, there is an end to dukkha that comes from practicing the Dhamma, and then there is a way leading to the end of dukkha, which is practicing the Dhamma. And then you might have experienced 1, 3. I'm sorry, Robert. Can you mute your thing? It's making some noise.
I'm at the function right now. Just like hiding in the bathrooms to take this call. So that's why.
Okay.
It's pretty jokes.
Just mute it until you talk. Okay, and so people will experience 1 and 3. So they'll experience dukkha, and then they'll experience moments of relief, and then they make up reasons about 2 and 4. So they'll make up a reason why they stop. They'll make up a reason that's not true of why they're experiencing dukkha, and they'll make up a reason. Oh, this girl texted me, or I got an Instagram notification. That's why I stopped experiencing dukkha. They make up a reason, but no, those aren't in reality actually what happened to stop experiencing dukkha and experiencing dukkha. So the teaching of the Buddha is very scientific and methodological. So we're viewing things and we're deconstructing it and seeing how it builds and how it functions. So it's like becoming it's like an inner engineer. So how does an engineer learn, and how does an engineer work?
That's a perfect example.
Right?
Because engineers don't care about why. They don't care about why does this do this? Why is the derivative of whatever? They care about how. And how does this work? And does this work enough to get this machine going? Does this work enough to get this program running?
Right. And then another example we can use is that there is a way of learning how something is functioning by taking it apart. So this will happen in the military when a enemy country gets a hold of some piece of technology. They can reverse engineer it by deconstructing it and seeing what it's made of and how it functions in that way.
Made in China.
The way that we practice when we already have dukkha is in a reverse engineer direction. So we deconstruct how the dukkha arose, and we look at all the signs and the footprints and the writings on the wall in our experience of why this arose, of how you're thinking about things. What's the content of my minds? Is it wholesome or unwholesome? So we can reverse engineer it that way, and then we'll gain insight into how it arose. And then the opposite, when we are satisfied, even more effective of understanding dependent origination of how dukkha arises is being there for it when it's constructed. So that's much easier than reverse engineering. It's easier to watch someone build something and then copy that than it is to take something that's already built and deconstruct it and try to rebuild it. But both are possible. So this is the skills that we're developing at any given moment, whether we're experiencing dukkha or not experiencing dukkha. And then we might be experiencing dukkha, not experiencing dukkha very quickly, back and forth. And then that's probably one of the best opportunities to get a handle, understanding of these things. When you're satisfied, oh, you get a little worried about something, you get a little anxious, you'd be like, oh, there it is again. I see you, Mara. And then you go back to satisfaction, and you come in and out of it very quickly. And then it starts to become more obvious and more clear what is causing what and what condition is creating what effect. So I'm talking about this. I'm talking about this all in the theoretical sense, but this is come and see for yourself type of practice. So
yes, and like you were using the analogy of snowboarding earlier.
Right.
At first, when you're snowboarding, you have no idea what to do. You're falling down a mountain. You have no idea how to balance yourself. You have no idea how to place your legs in the right way or turn the snowboard. And
you're gonna
so
fall on your ass a lot of times.
You're gonna fall on your ass.
Yeah.
And
same with meditation.
You're gonna fall on your ass. You've been falling on your ass your whole life. So why not start now learning how to balance? Right. Learning how to get your balance. And right. And so oftentimes people look at this, happens with any skill. You can see the Western mindset very clearly here, that whether it's snowboarding or meditation, people will want to go down the highest mountain immediately. But that's not a way to develop the skill. To develop the skill, we want to start with the fundamentals. Start with what's happening right now. Start with getting balance. Start with not falling on your ass. Mm-hmm. And we do that right now. We see, okay, I'm going to try and be a little more balanced. I'm going to try and bend my knees instead of blocking them out completely, right? And see if that works. And if that works, we develop that as a skill. I'm not a snowboarder, so this is just a little improvisation. Scott would be better at this.
I think this applies in so many different aspects and skills, not just snowboarding. Like anyone, when you first start piano, you're going to like suck at it and you're going to keep messing up over and over.
Although, can I add something?
Yeah, go for
it. If you can find something, whatever it is, that aligns in the technical repetition process, that gives you a better feeling, this is perfect. At the same time, if this doesn't occur, that's no reason to stop trying.
Right. No, that's how you learn.
To stop practicing.
Exactly. So like doing this causes me to fall on my ass. Okay. Going forward, I'm going to not do this, and then I'm going to adjust. I take in the new information that causes me to fall on my ass. I'm going to adjust to it. And then I'm going to try this. And then, oh, that feels good. Okay, here we go. Now we're cooking, and so forth. So we do this with our thoughts and stuff like that. We play around with the thoughts and see what is going to get it rolling, get the process started.
And we start to see patterns. We start to see, we start to develop wisdom in the sense of leaning forward completely when I'm about to snowboard down the hill, or leaning back too much, I'm going to fall on my ass. And so we develop wisdom when we feel the balance going off, when we lose our center of balance. As we practice more and more, we see that we can lose our balance and we develop recognition for that. We see a pattern, and with wisdom, we decide not to do that. And it's the same with dukkha, right? If we're in the habit of social anxiety and certain environments, we feel scared, we're critical of ourselves, we're judgmental of ourselves, then start one moment at a time seeing that pattern. Start watching yourself as you get off balance, and watch yourself fall over, and pick yourself up, and start on down the hill again.
And tweak it a little bit. Yes, tweak it.
Exactly, tweak it. That's a good point.
So I'll get to you, Robert, in a second. I just want to put one more example. Another example of exactly what we're talking about is coaching a sports team in any sport. So you may have the way that your team plays. This is our style and this is our strategy, and it's caused us success in the past. But then you're playing a new team, and this new team has a different strategy that's it takes advantages of your weaknesses. And then now you're losing this team. But then a stubborn coach will be like, no, just keep doing, this is how we do it. like keep doing it like that, and they're going to lose. A smart coach will be like, oh, they're taking advantage of this weakness. We're going to bolster that. We're going to adjust to their weaknesses, and we're going to attack at those points. So they adjust to what they're in the real time. They're looking at what's going on in real time, making the adjustments to what's going on. And that's what differentiates a successful coach who knows how to adjust to whatever team they're playing or adjust to whatever is happening, rather than having a dead set way of how we do things. No, this is how I do it, and even if it doesn't work and it causes me suffering over and over again, that's just the way it is, and I can't change it. That's the mentality that kind of like just repeats the same karma over and over. Okay, Robert, what's your question?
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I'm gonna head back to the group now. I like that point you gave me, Scott, about realizing that it's not the situation that's giving me the anxiety, and the situation's the problem. That it's just the anxiety itself that's the problem.
Right.
And I think that's gonna help me change my mindset. So it's more like I'm okay in the situation. I'm just tackling the anxiety, and not like worrying about the situation so much. Just worrying about how I feel, my inner state, and getting that sorted out first and foremost.
Right. That's the only way it'll work. So, have fun.
Have fun.
Thank you. I'll take this written test.
Nice seeing you.
Yeah, peace out, boys.
Take care, man.
Have a good one.
Okay. Any other things you'd like to talk about? I think going on the thread of
that dukkha gets subtler and subtler, like you're saying.
Yeah.
That as we develop strategies that work and that beat other teams, there are going to be better teams, or Mara is going to be get more skilled, or rather, the strategies that we didn't see before start to become more apparent. The unwholesome patterns that we didn't see before, we start to notice. Mm-hmm. It's subtler, and when we see that subtle dukkha, it's about being able to see it and say that's dukkha, rather than, oh, I don't suffer anymore, and right. I'm done with dukkha. And because like you're saying, that's the stubborn sports coach who thinks his strategy is perfect and he doesn't need to think anymore. No, this is about investigation, constant investigation. Yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
Right. So I see this a lot in spiritual circles, is that no, actually consciousness is permanent, or one or the other. So like you'll get into all these ideologies and views about the way things are, and cling on to it as the way to nibbana, or the way to the end of suffering. And when it doesn't produce the results that you desire, that you're satisfied with, you will still cling on. If you're practicing incorrectly, you will still cling on to it. Just like we can say the same thing with beliefs and religious beliefs. Have you ever met someone who has a belief about things, and when presented with a coherent, logical argument about why it's wrong, and it's all the evidence is put right in front of their face about why these are inconsistent beliefs, why they don't match up to reality, and there's no evidence for them, and here's actually a logical reason why it's wrong, and here's the evidence that can be repeated why it's wrong. But they would be like, nope, I have faith, right? So the faith we have in Buddhism is not really the same way most people think of faith as a blind belief, right? We don't have blind belief in that sense. We have experiential confirmation that this is the way. This is the way to the end of suffering, and this works, and I can do this. That's more of a conviction based off experiential knowledge or insight than it is about believing in something that doesn't produce the results or promises future results that you're never going to encounter right now. it's just magical thinking and superstition, and this is going to go round and round in a circle.
Piling up more and more and more instead of letting things go away, fading out.
Well, the thing is, like, instead of things happen the way that they have, like, phenomenologically, things are arising and passing away. It's just how we view and interpret things, which also arises and passes away, that is going to cause us dukkha or not. So it's not that things will change, like how things function, the natural law, the ingrained, the fundamental law of cause and effect and dependent origination never
To understand
changes.
the second noble truth, basically. You understand the second noble truth, that the clinging to it, the attachment is the problem.
Yeah, but that's not enough. You have to understand how does clinging arise, and not just on paper, like you're memorizing it for a test.
That's where the question comes from. That's where the question for the most people comes from. They try something and try something and try something and it doesn't work. They are not able to see it because they're not advanced enough in their meditation, and so the only thing they know is what they learned, and then this conditioning kicks in and they grasp for delusions. That's the natural dependent thing they do in this situation. So this is where you have to teach directly into.
Yeah, so a good teacher will tell this person, it's kind of like, instead of, like, a lot of spiritual teachers, it's the difference between giving a man a fish and teaching him how to fish. Is the difference. So it like, same thing with education. Like, if you're teaching someone how to learn rather than giving them new knowledge and information to store in their mind, one is going to lead to a lot more benefit than the other. So how to teach someone is you teach them how to stop and look at what you're doing. This doesn't work, continually over and over until you understand how it works and you get good at it. They don't just teach you, oh, here's the fruit. Oh, it's just like right away because I did the work and now I'm just going to give it to you. And now you're dependent on me and I give it to you every time. That's the difference between a lot of traditions where it's like more heavily reliant on some sort of magical guru, as opposed to learning the Dhamma and applying the Dhamma for yourself in your own experience. Because the Dhamma is universally for everyone. Like, the Dhamma can be practiced for everyone. Whether it's going to be understood or people are going to want to practice it is a different question. But it's possible for anyone to practice the Dhamma and repeat the same methods and get the same results as anyone else, if they care enough to look and care enough to practice.
Except the spark. The spark is something where you really need someone who can inspire this in you. I mean, if I would just read Dhammarato blog, for example, and stay in the things I learned before a few years, it wouldn't really ignite the Eightfold Noble Path.
You make a really good point, that when we're just reading things, it's less likely that we get that slap in the face and actually understand things, and someone to set us straight beyond the pattern of what you were talking about, Veda, of maybe getting a little taste or hearing something that you like and then holding on to that because you're too scared to admit that you don't know, right? And so,
for example,
to have someone to bring you back, to remind you that the practice is immediate, the practice is here and now, the practice is independent of that old view or old thing that you like that you're holding on to.
if you're able to see it. Most people
Right.
just don't even see that. They don't see what they are doing. They're doing it, and they have the bad results, and then they are mean to themselves, but they don't
There isn't
really
that clear
don't
seeing.
really
There
see
isn't that sati.
all
There
this.
isn't that. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, what you said about the spark is true, but it's true in the same way. For instance, how does someone learn math from the teacher? The first thing the teacher does is do the problem, walk them through it step by step. And then so you're there for them doing it, and they do it for you. So they walk you through, here's Dukkha, and now I'll get you into a wholesome state, Dukkha Nirodha. I did it for you. That's like doing the math problem step by step, and they're doing it for you, and you're learning that way. But then the progression is that, okay, now go do it on your own.
Exactly.
And, so now you do the examples, you fuck up the examples, you come back and you be like, why did I fuck up? And then you'd be like, oh, here's this, and this that you fucked up. And then so you start to learn in this way until you start succeeding at your own examples. And maybe eventually you get stuck. And okay, now I'm stuck again. And maybe let me try to figure it out first on my own. So you put some genuine effort into figuring out first on your own instead of going crying to Papa Dhammarato. And you might figure it out. Oh, actually, I am not stuck anymore. I figured it out. Or you're really,
Way, yeah.
or you're
If
really,
somebody can do this, wonderful.
That's a really good
Wonderful.
point.
or you're really,
Different
really
people,
stuck,
different learning styles.
or
I'm
you're
sorry
really,
to interrupt. I have to go.
all right.
I wish you the best Dhamma conversation now. Till the next time.
All
Have
It's
fun,
great
guys.
seeing you, Veda.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you're in response to Veda there, if you really, really are stuck, then you bring it to the teacher and, hey, need some help on this, and then you can you be like, oh, actually that was pretty simple, and then you learn that way. Yeah. So
And this connects with the idea of skill development, that the feedback, right? That some people will read a book and read a book and read a book, and then they'll get to the practice problems and say, oh, I actually understand enough. I don't even need to do the practice problems. Let me keep on reading. But that's that we need to do the practice problems to actually develop the skill. And we can lie to ourselves saying we understand it when we really don't. The understanding comes from the trial and error, the experiential learning. And this is the same with practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then once you get the problem right, you complete the test, you can go, whoopee, I did it. My job is done. I got an A+. And that's similar to the practice. So you do the practice, you succeed at the practice, you congratulate yourself for succeeding at the practice, and you feel even better. And now you can just sit here and be satisfied with nothing to do and nowhere to go, because you're sitting on your pile of dirt victoriously. But you had to get on top of the pile. You had to dig yourself out of the dirt, and you had to get on top of it. And also, people are throwing buckets of dirt on you, and you have to wipe off that dirt until you really are on top of the pile of dirt. And you have to clean yourself off if more dirt gets on you. But then you can enjoy sitting as a champion victoriously, and you can relish it and celebrate it and soak it in and really appreciate the magnitude and the scale of this achievement that goes beyond anything. This is a more impressive achievement than any materialistic achievement you can have, because this goes past past relative problems and solves the big problem. The only problem there really is Dukkha. Aside from that, that's just Dukkha and wearing different costumes is other problems. So you solve Dukkha, you solve the biggest problem that there is, and the only real problem behind all problems. So yeah, you're just filtering things down to solving the main problem of it all, and then you can enjoy yourself and celebrate afterwards. And you can, that's the beauty of it, is like you can like not even teach the Dhamma. You can become your own Buddha and like never talk about it again. Or you could teach it because it can help people and benefit people. But either way, it's a good thing.
Either way, no problem.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. So like the teachings of the Buddha has a profound depth to it. Although on the outside it may seem like, oh, why are there all these lists and these numbers for things? But the applicational benefits is almost beyond the comprehension of the ordinary capacity of the mind, in the sense of like the discursive thought process. So a lot of spirituality will be like, oh, you go beyond the mind and you have to go, like, it's like unfathomable, like you're not going to understand it. But you can understand it, you can deconstruct it, you can break things down. It's just you're not using the same skills that you're used to using. So you're not using the same method of thinking that you were before, but it still is a way of understanding and a way of seeing and a way of deconstructing and a way of discerning.
Like you can tell someone to balance on their snowboard,
right?
But that pointing at the idea of balancing on their snowboard is nothing compared to the physical, bodily experience of balancing on the snowboard.
Yeah. So like how in theory do you balance on a snowboard versus how it actually feels to do it?
You can read textbook after textbook on balancing on a snowboard, and not actually learn experientially how to balance.
That's probably the simplest way to put it, and like the best way.
And life is just endless mountain of snow, and we're snowing down it, and most people just fall down after time, and they're not even looking. They're blindfolded practically, and maybe they just give up and they're lying on the ground in dukkha.
Right.
But we have the opportunity to enjoy the ride and get up, and when we fall down, learn, investigate, what did I do to miss my balance, and get back up and enjoy the ride.
Am I gonna lie down here and feel sorry for myself and scoot on my butt all the way down, or am I gonna try again? Oh shit, I fell on my ass. But that guy he's having a lot of fun over there. Let me try it again. And so you get good at riding down the mountain, and you start to enjoy this thing called life, and you can appreciate it, and you can realize that when I fall on my ass, I had a choice to feel sorry for myself, or I have a choice to look at what I'm doing and adjust to it.
And be curious. How did I fall on my ass?
Yeah, right.
It must have been some delusion there. I want to see what that is and get back up and learn how to snowboard again.
Right. All right. So I think
All right, this has been great.
Yeah, it's been a great talk, man. I think a lot of good conversation came up. It was good to see you. And we had some members arise and pass away, but I think even two people here generates a lot of sati and a lot of good conversation, and I think a lot of people can benefit from the YouTube video and so on. In future generations, they're going to be digging up this video from the hard drives. Maybe some alien civilization or something can learn the Dhamma from deciphering what we're talking about. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, this has been great. Yeah, if you're in a future generation, this probably isn't relevant to you, but those of you who are in this generation, there's a link in the description for our Discord, and to join these Sangha calls. All are welcome. All right, see you, Scott.
See ya.
Bye.